the record, but you know what is on the record, friend?
That we both fell asleep at the same time in a movie.
Oh no!
That's the first time I've seen you fall asleep, and I could see it coming because you looked tired, and then I could tell you were sleepy. And I think this
was a very sleepy
This
boy.
must be what it's like to be Javi and going to a movie with me like once, like 1 out of every 4 times.
Yeah, it was a very long. It's been a very long couple of weeks. We've just had a lot of things going on. Katie's been booking us for a lot of fun things, which I'm not complaining about.
Dude, these like weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas break were just so jam packed.
Absolutely.
And like, it kind of sucks when the season is so close together, because we will not, in my house, we will not really put up our Christmas decorations before Thanksgiving. In fact, this
we
year,
usually don't. We were late this year.
In fact, this year what we actually did is we for the first time ever, we just put up the tree without decorating it. And just some greens to get them ready. But it feels like there was not really a Christmas season this year. What you looking for, Willis?
I'm looking for my soda. I don't know where I left it. I don't know.
Can I get you something to drink?
I got a water.
Very good.
But yeah. Anyway, I need to hydrate.
Yeah.
This season has been crazy, which is why we also haven't been
in the theater.
We've
missed Gladiator.
We missed Gladiator. We missed Wicked.
Yep.
I did see Moana.
Did you see Craven?
I have not.
Yeah.
No. This winter break, I might just do a couple of like double features.
A drive-by.
Jesus Christ. Because here's the fun thing. So to our millions of lovely listeners, so Thano and I both obviously have A-list.
Yes.
But then Katie and I made a second investment.
Oh.
Which may not be smart financially, but I think as far as like movie going goes, it might be a better deal than A-list.
What is it?
So Hollywood Palms came out with their own theater thing. And the way it works is you can get your individual pass, or you can get like a couple's pass.
Okay.
So we get a couple's pass.
Yeah.
And they don't give a fuck who you use it with.
Oh,
so
nice.
if you and I want to go, we can go to Hollywood Palms. We could be a couple. Absolutely.
Yes.
We will hold penises.
Yep. With
anyway,
each other's penises. Anyway, yes.
So you can go any day, every single day, and get 2 tickets per day.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, wow indeed.
Each person can get 2 tickets? Or
so each couple can get 2 tickets.
How much was this?
$44.
A month.
It's
a bit steep.
It is. I mean, AMC is $22.
Yeah.
$20.
Yeah.
The only difference is you do have to pay for like processing fees if you go online, so it's like an extra $1 or $2.
Okay.
But like whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna use full advantage of that over winter break.
Put a pin in this conversation. I was Googling how to open a movie theater.
Ooh.
Yesterday.
Or
earlier this week.
Dude, I would love to own my own movie theater.
I want to take the old Walmart and turn it into a movie theater.
That's the way to go?
That's the way to go.
I don't know, let's get into this venture. And then we can show Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim in our movie theater.
Yes.
So Thano is a big fan of Lord of the Rings, right?
I'm not like the world's biggest fan. I'm a great appreciator for the Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I'm a great appreciator.
Are you the kind of person that watches the director's cuts every year or every couple years?
Not. I might become that. I watched them this year. I did watch them. In fact, I think I saw them twice this year.
I don't think I've ever seen the director's cuts.
They're worth it.
Are they?
Yes.
It's like 12 hours worth of shit.
Yeah.
Fuck.
For sure. It's, you know what? You watch them though. You do watch them as background.
Okay.
I'll say. B. So I've only ever read The Fellowship of the Ring and The Hobbit.
Okay.
I've tried to get through the other ones. I do think the books are boring.
Yeah.
But that's also just because I'm not a good reader. but I do very much appreciate all the craft that Tolkien did, because I do think what he did was amazing.
Okay.
But yes, so that's why I would say I'm an appreciator of the Lord of the Rings.
I would say I'm not.
Yeah. Fair.
I've seen all the movies.
Yeah.
I do think I watched them at a point where my English was just not there yet.
Yeah.
So like I was just watching a bunch of people walking and not understanding really what they were saying. So
Yeah.
like that's a whole other layer of like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing.
Oh yeah.
Hold on one second. I will say I did relatively enjoy the Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
I remember rewatching.
Really?
I mean,
have you seen all? I still haven't seen the third one.
I've seen all of them. They're okay. Like, I didn't hate them.
Yeah.
Like, I was not like, this made me a Lord of the Rings fan.
No, I think they're boring.
I think it was you took okay content and spread it way too thin.
Yes, they're entirely too long.
So I do think this kind of sets like the expectations of what I had going into this.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, and I know I said this to you, my biggest draw for this was the fact that this was an anime movie.
It looked so cool, and the concept. I had high hopes coming in for this movie.
I do think that there were some, like, just from a purely aesthetic perspective, like there were some very good visuals as far as like the world of anime goes.
Yeah.
I do think that like Lord of the Rings and like Tolkien in general like sets such a pretty open world that you can kind of do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And also like this movie really does heavily borrow from Peter Jackson's interpretation of the story.
Correct.
So like if you watched any of those movies, like you recognize shit immediately, like the giant elephant.
The giant elephants.
The little squid thing.
The castle in Rohan, right?
Yeah. So like you can kind of do the whole like Leo point at the screen and go, ooh, I know what that is.
Which I didn't realize. I think I just expected that would be the case. I didn't realize people were that excited about that.
About like seeing shit?
Yes.
I mean, it's long enough that it's been almost 10 years, right? Since Battle of the Five Armies.
Oh, yes. And since Return of the King, 21 years.
21 years Return of the King.
Like yesterday.
Yeah. So, like, I think people do kind of crave it. I know that some people felt a little burnt by Rings of Power.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe they were like, oh, I hope this maybe scratches the itch that's, like...
That's there.
It's there. I don't know that this necessarily... does that for me personally as a person who's not a huge fan.
Yeah.
But I also think that the way this movie's structured is very weird. Because, like, I mean, all right. I don't love reading word for word, like, what a synopsis is all the time. I know we do it for the fun.
That's why you pawn that shit off me.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I do. Sometimes I do want you to. I want you to do this for me someday.
Buster.
I want you to give me your own spin on synopsis from now on. I think it'll be funny. But here's what this synopsis is, and I think this is why people are kind of going in a little confused, right? So it says, a sudden attack by Wolf, a clever and treacherous Lord of Rohan, seeking vengeance for the death of his father, forces Helm Hammerhand, the king of Rohan, and his people to make a daring last stand in the ancient stronghold of Hornburg.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. That's not what the movie's about. Like, yes, broad strokes.
Missing a protagonist.
Yeah, because, like, there is zero mention here of Hera, right?
Yeah.
Who is, for lack of a better term, our protagonist, right?
And I like-ish Hera.
I do, too.
Yeah.
I do have issues with the way she is portrayed.
Yeah.
My main criticism, and I know I wrote this down here at the very bottom, so it shows kind of how my brain kind of goes. She feels less like a character who does things, and she feels to me more like a character who things happen to.
Yeah.
She seems like you are supposed to make a protagonist, for the most part, very active, right?
Yes.
You want them to seek something out eventually. And she kind of does, right? She wants adventure. She doesn't want to just be married off.
Yeah.
But like, everything just kind of seems to like kind of fall on her, and then she's just like, well, I guess I gotta deal with this now.
So I think by the end is where I like her the most.
Yes, for sure.
But I'll say, and I think her character is kind of indicative of the plot as a whole. Sometimes we talk about movies' plots and we're like, it was simple, but in a really good way. I almost think like this one's too simple in a bad way, where it's a tale that's been told of like spurned love, revenge, right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like it doesn't take any interesting
risks.
Yes.
Or
angles. And I don't think that tale also even fits well into The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I will say, like, overall, I think if I wasn't like so eepy that day, I think I would like this a little bit more.
So eepy.
And that's kind of the thing, right? Like, we've gone to see movies late.
Yeah.
And if the movie is like very gripping, like I will stay awake.
Yeah.
Right. Like I knew I was tired, and I think you could tell I was tired because I got popcorn in the drink.
Oh, so I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I need that like that sensory of like grabbing something and moving my hand.
I see.
That helps.
Yeah.
But even that was not enough to keep me fully
Fully
and I
awake.
wanted to because I was interested in what was happening.
Yeah.
But it was just like something was just falling a little short, and I do think that like with a little bit more time, a little bit more tweaking, you could have really made
something special.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because like we've always talked about things like Harry Potter, things like Star Wars. Like the world is so vast. Give me something new.
Yeah.
Right? How many times have we said like, hey, instead of giving me like a live action remake of Harry Potter,
right,
give me like an animated show where you can then showcase like all the magic shit that like
and make it look cool.
CGI and make it look cool, right? You can do that with this.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they didn't, and it really shows the desperation of wanting to keep like the rights.
Yeah,
which like it's no secret that New Line rushed the shit out of this for the purposes of like not losing the rights. And I almost feel like that then is extremely visible.
Absolutely.
And it kind of sucks because like I really wanted to cheer for this.
Well, and I was also not the only one who was hella hyped. I feel like a lot of people were hella hyped on this.
I'm surprised you were hella hyped, if I'm being honest.
I was hyped by the prospect of it being anime and just getting to see this aesthetic in Middle Earth.
Yeah, right? I still think I did enjoy that. The aesthetic didn't like detract at all. I just feel like the thing that really did let me down overall was like the story.
Absolutely. That's the biggest downer.
So let's get into the story. Yeah. Let's get into the story. So we are introduced to we're in the past, right? This is set almost 200 years before like the mainline
right? Lord of the Rings story.
Yeah, and Hera's like a new character for lack of a better word, right?
I don't think she's named in the source material.
So she may not be named, but is she is there a mention of she had like Helm has a daughter?
I think that still might be the I don't know. I didn't do it. I did some research. I don't remember, but all I know is that in the source material of this story, she is not a plot point.
Oh yeah. I mean that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean if it was a spurned marriage, that was it. Right, so like she is not really a character in the source material for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's honestly fine. I do think that one of the best ways to kind of create your own like little corner of a world is to do something like this
to create a character from scratch.
You create a character from scratch without you can kind of weave them into the lore and the canon of the story.
Yeah, I just feel like they got to be cool.
Yeah. Right, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
So Freka's the guy. He's kind of like under Helm, right?
Yes.
Freka's like another kingdom. He's from another kingdom, right?
The Dunedain, I think, or the Duneling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's another kingdom of men.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has a son named Wolf.
Right.
He has peak like anime villain vibes. He's got the scar over his eye. He looks very like...
It's too much, dude. Like,
he's the most like anime villain looking motherfucker in this whole thing.
And I know like here, I know Lord of the Rings is not famous for its like nuanced villains, but at least like they have the decency to be like orcs and cackle and like like basically be Satan, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Like this is just not villains aren't cool. I think Helm is barely cool, but they're just not. They're not interesting villains. It's not an interesting main conflict.
And here's the thing: I think Helm could be cool.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you present him a little bit different, you could make him really cool. You could make him like the cool king who's like stern. Because like when he's like, "All right, you're talking shit. Let's go outside. I'm gonna whoop your ass."
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of cool. But then, like, that's immediately thrown away when he's just kind of a dick to his daughter.
Well, that's the thing. He has He has a lot of cool physical feats, and I do appreciate that. I do like that they leaned into this like Norse Viking angle, but I feel like he just lacks a certain wisdom and like lacks certain admirable like character traits. And when I say character traits, I mean like character counts character. I don't mean like I don't mean his physical feats that just make me not. I was not able to get behind him.
Yeah,
as my king.
It's also crazy though that like this movie does a thing that I think a lot of people kind of fall into nowadays, where they're like, they're kind of painting Hera almost like she's not into men, right?
Yeah.
And sure, I kind of wish they would have leaned more into that, because that would, I think, make her maybe a little bit more interesting as to like why she doesn't really want to marry Wolf.
Perhaps.
Right? Because like, that's the whole point. Like, this Freka guy is there to get Wolf to marry
them.
To marry him. Hammerhand's not into that because he's like, you just want to like usurp me from my throne.
Yeah.
Which is very obvious. Like, this dude's not subtle.
Yes. Yes.
I do think it's kind of hilarious though how Hammerhand just like one punches this dude.
It is very funny.
And Wolf is just like, you killed my daddy.
Well, that's
like, what the fuck did you expect? This is just like throwing hands.
I think that was, and maybe I'm being unfair, but like, yes, anybody would get mad if they're like,
dad got killed.
If their dad got killed.
Like a chump.
But his dad walked in like a dick.
Yeah, what do you expect?
And he was like, let me fuck you up. And Helm's like, all right, we'll take this outside. And then,
this movie is fuck around and find out, basically.
Except, like...
It literally is.
It is, but, like, man, ain't nobody learned no lessons on the villain side. Which I guess it's fair, like, they're villains, but to me, he's just so... Wolf as a character is just so unlikable. Like, it even goes past the point where I'm glad to see him get got. I'm just like, you just suck.
You suck. There is a scene. So, like, this is a little ahead, right? So, this guy gets killed. The Wolf gets exiled.
Mm-hmm.
Hera goes off on an adventure for the lulz.
Yes.
With her, like, little D&D adventure party.
Yeah.
They run into, like, some dead orcs or whatever the fuck it is.
I thought it was horses.
There's horses, and then there's, like, a humanoid. I can't remember what exactly it was. They run into this massive, like, war elephant, right? And this all leads to her getting captured by Torg, I think is the guy's name.
Yeah.
Targ. And he is Wolf's, like, second in command, right? Yes. So she gets kidnapped.
Where's she taken to, Javi?
I have no idea, dude.
Isengard.
I don't know what the fuck that means.
They took the protagonist to Isengard.
I don't know what the fuck that means.
All right.
Anyway, all right. Here, she has this interaction with Wolf.
Yeah.
Where she's like, hey, man, listen, shit's fucked. And you kind of have this feeling like, hey, maybe they're going to try to humanize him a little bit.
That's what I thought, too.
And immediately he's like, I'm going to stab you.
Yes.
So you're like, hold on a second. No, you are just a dick. And then you're like, okay, this guy sucks. So she runs away. She goes back home.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, Dad, listen, you know Wolf? He was able to get all these fucking hillbillies to, like, gather around him.
That's what I don't get.
And then he's like, nah.
To be fair, I'd be surprised, too.
But, like, okay, this whole time, he talks about Hera like he really respects her.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so we are introduced to Hammerhand as a guy who would trust his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But then in, like, the span of 5 seconds, that shit just goes out the window.
Out the window.
And it's not just her. It's her, and it's, like, all the other people that she's with, including her cousin, I believe, right?
I wanted more of the cousin. I'm not the only one. But
I did, too.
I think the cousin is my favorite character.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think it's kind of crazy that he does more cool shit.
Yeah.
Than Hera does, being the protagonist. She does some, I think collectively she does more cool shit, but that's because she's the protagonist. But, like, if you do the ratio of screen time to cool shit,
oh, absolutely,
like, his cool shit's a little bit more,
higher percentage.
Yeah. But, like, even he's like, no, dude, like, she is right. He is gathering forces. like we need to be careful, and he's like, nah.
Doesn't he exile the cousin too, or doesn't he?
Yeah, it's after that he's like, fuck off.
And I think that's where I really hated Helm. Like before, he lacked that kingly wisdom I was talking about earlier. But then at this point, I'm like, you seem to be not flirting with the idea of girl boss dad, but like you're almost kind of there. But then but then you don't believe her, and then also like you're just so rash with your nephew that I couldn't really sympathize with him. Back to Wolf. The movie, it's weird because like it felt too long in certain parts, but I almost wish there was more time in between Wolf's exile and then the very next scene.
It fucking speeds through.
It speeds through to the point where like obviously time has passed in the movie, but as a viewer, where he's like, I'm gonna when she gets kidnapped by Wolf's second in command, he's like, I'm gonna take you to my boss. And then the movie's like, who could that be?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Do they say how long it's been? Is there like any indication that it's been years?
I don't remember if it says for sure, but let's assume years. This is the franchise, by the way, that so in Fellowship of the Ring, in the book, between when like Bilbo leaves, and then like Gandalf comes back and Frodo leaves for like to go on the quest to bring the ring to the elves.
So from the Hobbit to Fellowship?
No. From in Fellowship.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, because you said Bilbo.
When Bilbo leaves. So when Bilbo has his birthday party and pieces out.
Oh, okay. At the beginning of Fellowship.
The beginning.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then when Gandalf comes back and has Frodo like leave to Rivendell to go like bring the ring to the elves. Right. So in between Bilbo piecing out and then Bilbo leaving the Shire. In the book, 50 years pass.
What the fuck?
Exactly.
No.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's fucking nuts.
It's a long ass time.
That is a long ass time.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, this movie doesn't really do a lot for the passage of time.
Right.
Because immediately after this happens, they get invaded.
Yeah.
Like it's almost I swear it has to have been like longer than that, right? Like it can't just be like they chased us here.
And it makes me wonder where they're getting all these Noonies to like to attack. Because I'm looking at Wolf.
Oh fuck! Okay. AI, mark that. I can go into my thing and type. Yeah, where he's getting these guys from, right?
Yeah, where he's getting these guys from. Because like I don't see a very charismatic leader with this man.
No, I don't get it. I think and we come back to this, right? Like you needed less scenes of like random shit.
Fewer.
Sure. You need fewer scenes of like this random shit. But I do think you could use more of the villain.
Yep.
Like I know he's not the main character and nor should he be necessarily. But if they gave us a few scenes of him maybe like post-exile, just a montage of him like going to recruit people, how he earned their respect. Because if I'm being honest, like we were never shown any reason why he would be formidable.
Or not only even him. You've seen GoldenEye, have you not? The James Bond movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the prologue, right? James Bond and Sean Bean, right? Like, they do their mission. And then Sean Bean, quote unquote, dies.
Yeah.
And then James Bond does like plenty of shit in between. You get the reveal that like, oh no, the villain of this movie is Sean Bean. And then you're like, this makes sense. Yeah. Right? I feel like you didn't even have to focus on him. You could have shit going on in Rohan that's affecting the characters and like reflective of the king. And then, that's how you elevate your conflict. And then they're like, who is this mystery brigand?
But that's the thing. Like, it really goes from Wolf is exiled to now Hera's getting kidnapped.
To the point. And then also when there's like the sick horses and they're investigating, it was almost to the point I was like, did I miss something that I was
I thought so too, but no. It really just kind of skips ahead.
Yeah. So I think that's honestly where I could have wanted more content.
Yeah, so Wolf invades Rohan and we find out that Lord Thorn is he betrayed the king, right?
Yes.
In the scene where she's talking to Wolf in his tower, she finds a scroll with Thorn's sigil, and like they it's not subtle. You look at it, and you go, okay, this is gonna be
That's the guy.
Chekhov's seal, right?
Yeah.
And then she sees it again, and she goes, ah, fuck. And again, there is zero time for this to kind of breathe or do anything.
Who is this dude? Right?
Because like I believe like literally that same scene, the guy shows up and then he gets killed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's another thing that I do find kind of a little frustrating about Hera's character, that we are told that she is, for lack of a better term again, like a warrior princess.
Yeah.
Right? That she's scrappy, that she likes to fight instead of like wearing dresses, right? She talks about how she likes being in her like adventuring gear as opposed to like the stuffy dresses.
She's Arya Stark.
Basically, yeah. She has that scene with Wolf when they're kids and she kicks his ass.
Yeah.
Right? So we are being kind of set up like she is badass and can hold her own. But honestly, she kind of almost gets her ass kicked by this tubby dude.
Yeah.
The only reason why she kills him is because the horse kicks him into the pitchfork.
That's a good point.
So like I just don't think they do a really good job at establishing Hera as like a formidable badass.
No.
Which is why I go back to she's less proactive and more reactive as a character.
And I think this is where my biggest. And there's going to be many people who disagree with me because from what I've gathered so far, the Lord of the Rings fandom is pretty positive on this movie. To me,
which is fascinating.
This doesn't feel like a Lord of the Rings story because I don't have like an abundance of endearing characters. And like when I say endearing, I mean I think what makes Lord of the Rings appealing is you will always have multiple people who you were like, this is a great fucking dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like
like
I'd go on adventures with Gandalf.
Yeah.
Like Legolas is so suave.
Mm-hmm.
Like Aragorn deserves to be the king. Right.
Yeah.
Like there's no one here that's like that.
Except for the cousin who's not in the fucking movie.
That and then like I mentioned Arya a couple sentences ago because like the whole time in this movie, I'm like, this almost feels like it's trying to be Game of Thrones. Like even the conflict, not that Lord of the Rings can't do that level of a conflict, but like the conflict seems like it's on a petty Game of Thrones level, right?
Yeah, I mean, grand scheme of things, like take out the White Walkers, and if you really think about it, Game of Thrones is a very simple.
Well, I won't say it's simple, but it's yeah,
but it's petty like human squabble.
Yes,
right. Like there's nothing like super like galaxy brain happening.
Right, where Lord of the Rings is more elevated on higher things, right?
Yes.
And there's a place for both.
For sure.
But then, I don't know, but sometimes like one needs to be one and one needs to be the other. To use another analogy, it's like when Call of Duty had a bunch of success and then like Halo started implementing like Call of Duty mechanics and it just wasn't like...
People need to stick to their own lanes.
Stick to their own lanes.
Stick to your lanes.
This movie does not.
It does not, no. Yeah. I honestly think a character that I would have liked to get a lot more from is Targ.
Yeah.
Because he's Wolf's, like we said, he's Wolf's second in command.
Why?
And he seems
Why do we care that he betrayed, right? Like...
Yeah, so like he needs to be... I think if you spotlight him a little bit more, it could really have... I don't want to say humanize Wolf's side, but like gives you an insight into why he still follows Wolf.
Yeah.
Because for the... For lack of what we're shown, like Wolf is making literally all the wrong decisions here.
Yeah.
If this is the guy that I'm following, and literally every single time I'm like, hey man, you should do this, and he does the opposite. Hey man, you should do this, and he does the opposite. Like, what the fuck's the point?
Does he try to like sneakily stab someone 3 times in this movie?
Wolf?
Yeah.
And fail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it 3? It's at least 2.
At least 2.
It's at least 2.
I mean, he does stab a couple people.
Yeah.
He's not good at being subtle, necessarily. No. Like, you see it coming, and people do fall for it.
But in the last one, I was like, wouldn't this be so fucking stupid if he was just like, yes, like, I surrender, like, at the end. And he's like, I surrender. I was like, wouldn't it be so fucking stupid if he's like, psych?
And he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they eventually get, like, basically pushed back to, what is this place called? Hornburg.
Yes.
And this is kind of like where the rest of the movie takes place.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this is like half of the movie.
Yes.
Like,
it's Helm's Deep.
It's Helm's Deep,
Before...
right? Pre-name.
Yep.
Both, is it Haleth and Hama? Right?
Yeah.
They are both the sons of Hammerhand.
Yeah.
They both get got.
Yep.
I do think it was kind of cool that they both get like pretty cool scenes preceding their death. Like they both go down. Like one guy goes down after he takes out one of the elephants.
Yes.
The other brother, the younger one, like he's really attached to his horse.
Yeah.
They're like, hey man, you should leave this horse. It's old as fuck. He's like, no, this is my horse.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's his downfall.
Yeah.
Right. So, like they're both like pretty endearing characters.
Yeah. They're noble.
They're chivalrous. Right. And it does kind of then again shows you how much of a piece of shit Wolf is.
Yes.
But he's like, hey man, I surrender. Give me my son. He's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Just kills this dude. And even Target's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Which, once again, I know, like, I shouldn't question a villain's logic too much, because villains are gonna villain. But, like, is his motivation still to marry her?
Dude, I don't know.
Because I'm like, man,
I don't know.
You are not setting this up for success.
Absolutely not. Yeah. They spend a good chunk of the time here at Helm's Deep doing literally nothing but, like, I'm assuming starving.
Yeah.
But we're never really shown that they are like necessarily like struggling, I feel.
Yeah.
Like we kind of see like snippets of it, but like all in all, they're kind of having a pretty posh time.
I will say, I do like that they managed to create in this siege of Helm's Deep. They did manage to create a different and smaller scale battle than the one in the movies.
The one in the movies.
There is one siege tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I like this. I don't feel like I'm just retreading the same.
Here's the funny thing though that I was thinking. So like people at Helm's Deep, like they walk around willy-nilly like on the walls, right? And these baddies are clearly building like a siege tower.
Yeah.
Which it's really silly because it's just a bunch of sticks going up and up and up. Can't you just like throw some flaming arrows?
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I will never. There's something about medieval warfare that's always going to elude me, because once I saw for the first time ever, like, ladders used to attack a castle in any movie.
Mm-hmm.
I know obviously they worked in real life.
Just push.
And I know that was the goal. And I know that there's reasons why, like, that didn't necessarily work, but I'm like, the fact that, like, all your people on the ladders are, like, having to go up one by one, like, A, like you said, just push, and then B, like, the danger of just, like, as soon as you're getting up there, just being like, stabby, stabby, stab.
I do think that becomes one of those things where, like, ideally in a giant scale battle, like, you would have people at a vantage point where, like, you could shoot people who will try to push.
Yes,
it's an overwhelming amount of numbers.
There's a reason it was used. There was a way to make it work. Yeah.
I get that. But this is one single siege tower that's, I'm assuming, being built in a matter of not just a single day or two.
Yeah.
Shoot some flaming arrows at this thing. This thing is clearly flammable because that's how it gets taken out at the end.
Yeah.
So, like, it just, I'm like, this did not need to last this long.
Yeah.
Here's the part where we kind of missed, but we didn't really. So, like, Helm is apparently, like, mortally wounded.
Mm-hmm.
But not really. He gets somehow, like, magically healed. I'm assuming by the weird little witch lady.
Mortally wounded upon arriving there, right? Because he got the arrows in them.
He got fucked. He got pincushion.
Which looks cool.
It looks cool.
It did look cool.
Again, visually speaking, Helm Hammerhand is a really cool looking dude, right?
Yes.
And even the fact that he's, like, willing to, like, still be the last one into the gates.
Yeah.
Like, shows that he does care about his people, right? So he's cool. But then, like, Hera is out. There's, like, these, like, weird noises. This is where we get woken up by the troll and the orc. They apparently have rings that they're, like, looking for. Ooh, I wonder what that's all about.
Yeah.
And then Hera's about to get fucking got.
Yeah.
And Helm just comes out of nowhere. Like, looking like Hulk Hogan.
Right.
Right? All ripped as shit. Beats the hell out of them with his bare hands and a rock, I think.
No shirt, right?
No shirt. Yeah, he's like naked in the snowstorm.
Yeah.
Which you're like, buddy,
what's going on.
Come on,
yeah,
man. Come on.
Put a
So like this kind of also leads me to like, is there something supernatural with Helm?
It's never confirmed. A lot of people have.
Is that part of the lore?
I don't know for sure.
Because like the fact that he kills this dude with one punch,
yeah,
and then he beats the shit out of this troll and this orc with his bare hands, and then he's like beating the absolute piss out of Wolf's like army.
Yeah.
Right? For the full night, basically. He's able to open the gates with his bare hands. Right. So like it alludes to some sort of supernatural strength, right? And then we get this really goofy visual of him like frozen solid with his fist held high.
Yeah.
Like I get that it's supposed to be kind of cool. It is in theory
it's cool, but it's also so
it looks so goofy.
It looks very goofy. You couldn't do that in a live action movie.
No. I feel like this is one of those things that really only works in anime.
Yeah.
It still manages to like the goofy doesn't quite offset the cool factor of the thing, but it's right there. This kind of then triggers our like final like sequence of events where like Hera's like, well, I gotta basically take the mantle. I'm the last. Mm-hmm. I'm the last of his bloodline right now.
Yeah.
She sends the eagles, which by the way, that's introduced at the beginning, like very
she's
offhandedly.
Playing with eagles, first thing in the movie.
She's playing with the eagles. She goes back to the eagles. She somehow convinces one of them to take her dad's armor to her cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Good thing that the eagle takes it.
Yeah.
Right? I do think, like, the whole visual of the eagles has always, to me, seemed really cool.
Yeah.
And I do think that, like, as far as the anime aspect of this movie goes, like...
I think that works.
I think it really works for me.
I agree with you.
I think they look almost a little bit more majestic.
In animation?
In animation to me, because like when you are watching a live action movie, we haven't seen like eagles on screen since 2014, right? No, because I don't even think there's the eagles in Battle of the Five Armies.
There might not be, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's only in the first Hobbit movie that you see there's like 2011. Yeah. So like even then, like the visuals, you're like, okay, you can definitely tell this is not like a real thing.
That first Hobbit movie is 2011.
It's got to be earlier than that. Maybe 2010.
No, I think it's later. I think it was definitely in college. Anyway, continue.
But anyway, I do think that having both then your character and your eagle have the same art style.
2012.
Yeah. I do think that like helps elevate that.
Yes,
that aspect of like, hey, these are beautiful, majestic creatures.
And you feel you can get up more in person.
Absolutely.
To what? Yeah.
Yeah. This is where we have our. Actually, I really do like this end sequence of like Wolf's army actually storming Helm's Deep, right? We get the siege weapon or the siege tower actually like implemented. I love the guy at the top who's like beating the drum, and then he just gets fucking yeeted. I was like, is he getting off?
Yeah.
He just gets thrown.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, hey man, you do you.
Yep.
I still don't quite understand the purpose of Hera putting on the bridal gown. I know it has to do with like the story of like the maidens.
I was trying to remember
something about, and this is not because we fell asleep. They really just don't elaborate very much on this.
I thought it looked cool.
It kinda, yeah. It seems almost like kind of comes out of nowhere. Is it referenced before?
When they get to Helm's Deep, the old lady does show her the bridal gown in like a chest, I believe. And she's like, this was something.
Gotcha.
And then I'm like, that will probably be important later.
Chekhov's like, bridal gown.
But I don't remember what it specifically was.
And this is kind of where I wish we would have gotten a little bit more insight into Hera's actual like battle prowess, I guess you could say. Because like she comes out swinging and kicking ass, and I'm like, where the fuck was this the rest of the movie?
Yeah.
You
know she has it because
we're told that she has it, but we don't really see it, right? She doesn't really put up a fight with the troll and the orc. She doesn't put up a fight really with anyone prior to this. Like again, even Lord Thorn is like throwing her around, and this until the Force kicks him. the only scene we get her kicking ass is when she beats the shit out of Wolf as a kid.
Yes.
So I just kind of wish we would have gotten a little bit more of that. But I do love the visual of is it Freelaf, the cousin arriving
with the armor,
with the giant ass moon.
Yeah,
in the silhouette.
It looks great.
That looks fucking dope. I would love that as like a background.
Yes.
I think it's a really cool visual. It scares the shit out of Wolf's guys.
It's been said before, but individual frames in this movie are
it's
truly
beautifully
fantastic.
Animated.
Yeah.
The people who are behind this, the director, oh boy, what's his name? Kenji Kamiyama. He's done a lot of work in Ghost in the Shell, which had this weird transition from like regular 2D animation like this to like 3D animation. And I really do think that like the work that he's done in like the 2D like sphere
works
a lot more for me. That is basically like what happens in this story. And if I'm being honest, I still don't necessarily understand. I do think this movie is good. It's more good than not. But I am very curious as to what exactly it is that's not appealing to the people.
That's a great point.
Because you say that, like, from what you've read, I'm assuming Reddit is where you're seeing a lot of these conversations.
Oh, and I follow some Lord of the Rings YouTubers who, like,
talk
about the
those
lore.
Sentences are
Exactly.
blowing my fucking mind right now, man.
Yeah.
I don't know why it is. It makes sense, but
what blows your mind about me following Lord of the Rings?
The fact, I don't know why, like in my brain, Lord of the Ring YouTuber, I'm like, what the fuck can you do?
There's a lot.
Holy
actually, that's where I learned about all the lore, to be honest with you.
Shit.
It's from them.
I mean, I get, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it makes sense. Like, logically, I'm like, yeah, that does track. But in my brain, I was like, it just didn't seem real.
Like, with our millennial brains who can't read, right? Like, like it does make sense to have a Lord of the Rings YouTuber because they will explain all that shit to you. And like, like, this is fucking cool. So, yes. They all seem to be down with this movie.
Okay. So then that's my question. Because this movie comes out, you do hear people are like, hey, it's a new Lord of the Rings movie. It's animated, so it's something different.
Yeah.
Like, all the pieces are there. The only thing that I was like, wow, fuck, are the incels going to be pissed because it's a woman advertised as the lead? But apparently, from what you say, like, not really necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the story's not amazing, but, like, in order for you to, like, know that the movie's not amazing, you have to go see it or be told that it's not good.
The chuds are not really chudding, and they're definitely not chudding as hard as they chudded for Rings of Power.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, but then that leads us to this, right? And this is true, right? So if you look at the rating for this movie, right? So all critics give this a 49% Rotten Tomato.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see critics being a little bit more like...
Right,
okay. Yeah. But if you go to the audience, which is like what a lot of the times like really tells you what the fandom kind of says, right? 74% is relatively popular. Not Lord of the Rings popular, right? Like if you go to the Lord of the Rings movies, like this fucking popcorn meter is like astronomically high, right?
Right.
But none of this tells me like stay the fuck away.
Yeah.
Right? Because this movie opened in like 7th place at the box office the weekend it came out. $4 million, only $10 million, but it's only a $30 million budget. So like, okay. And I don't think it was necessarily advertised a lot. So I can't see this budget with promotion being terribly high.
That is the thing. I felt like I saw more advertising for this a year ago than I did recently.
But it's always been the same trailer. Like they really heavily focused on like that intro where they kind of show you scenes of the movie and then it goes into the anime aesthetic.
Yep.
But like that really is.
That's it. That's all it's been pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very interested. So like, what is exactly that? Because like I personally don't think that the anime aesthetic is like that much of a red flag.
No.
I don't think that.
I think that it would attract people. Honestly.
You would think. So I'm honestly very baffled
as to why it's. You're baffled as to why it didn't do as well as it did box office wise?
Considering like you said, the fan hype going into this, because you did say like you were hyped.
I was hyped.
Right?
I was hyped.
you said that like a lot of the hardcore fans are really into this overall. So why is this so low?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
I do think I'm gonna put most of the culpability on marketing. I do think this movie, like the graph of marketing was pretty much a flat line. Like
absolutely.
I don't think it increased a lot more before like the movie actually came out.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I'd say that's probably the biggest factor. And then number two, I don't know, maybe for like fantasy shit to be really, really successful, like it's got to be really, really good.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
I could see that. I guess that's true. We really don't get a lot of like high fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
I think the closest we've gotten to like really high fantasy stuff was probably the D&D movie.
One minute. Hello. And then D&D, I forget how well it did. I mean, it didn't do as well as we.
It didn't do gangbusters, yes. But like critically and like, you know, like critically, what I mean is like, you know, big top dog critics.
Yeah.
And the fans, I feel like it did very well. I think it has found more of an audience in like home release. I wonder if this movie will be one of those where like once it goes to streaming, once it goes to like home video, maybe it'll find more.
Well, I wonder if like fantasy is kind of like deceivingly hard to explain unless it's really good. Because here's what I mean. I have trouble summarizing this movie. Because like I can summarize to you like the inciting incident and then kind of like the background conflict.
Yeah.
And then up until you get to Helm's Deep, I'm like, well, then shit happens.
And then shit happens.
And then you get to Helm's Deep, and then some more shit happens.
I'm curious. I'm curious if maybe this is like further proof, and this is going to be one of those things where like the executives will probably take the wrong lesson, where they're like, this shit was set 200 years before. There really are not that many recognizable things, because like the most recognizable shit we get are maybe some of the creature designs.
Yeah.
Obviously, Helm's Deep is recognizable.
You get Saruman at the end.
Yeah, and you get which was fucking nuts.
Yeah.
You get the name drop of Gandalf. He was a magical wizard, and his name was Gandalf.
I actually am fine with Saruman, because like they were there at his tower. So
Why
does he fucking get here?
That tracks.
I didn't need the Gandalf. I did not need the Gandalf one.
I think if they had just left it at, I got this letter from a wizard who goes by many names, and just leave it at that.
You know.
But they were like, boop.
Exactly.
Yeah, they couldn't just like leave it. They had to punch you in the face. They had to
boop you. Yeah.
Not just boop you. They fucking ham-fisted you.
Which is funny because the Gandalf thing is only in the movie because of the orc was looking for the rings.
Yeah.
So like it's an irrelevant plot point connected to another
irrelevant plot. Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm pretty sure like executives will be like, look at that, we tried to expand and we tried to do something set in its own thing and it didn't connect. We need to remake Lord of the Rings.
I am optimistically pessimistic about their ability to do that.
God, I hope.
Yes. I think it's even a tier above Harry Potter in terms of like those movies really are just the definitive like
version of what it is.
To the point where even Rings of Power takes visual cues from like the Peter Jackson movies.
1,000%.
Right. Like Sauron's armor in Rings of Power looks like it does in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like that would happen. I actually want some more of these anime ones. Because as I was watching this, ironically, even though like I didn't need the orc plot, like there were points in the movie where I was like, I could use some elves. Like I could use some halflings. Right? So I would like to see more animated dabblings in Middle Earth.
And here's the thing. Budget-wise, not crazy. Just gotta make it. I think you just gotta make a better story. Yep. I really do think you give this proper time. Because this thing was not only like just made because they wanted to keep the things. This shit was fast tracked.
Yeah.
So like that tells you like just how rushed they probably were to get this done.
And this is still a Warner property, right?
I believe so. Yeah. For sure, New Line. I think Warner Brothers is in ties with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not I'm not down necessarily on Lord of the Rings because of this. I am disappointed that the story was not more concise, and I am also very disappointed in the fact that like it's the first dip into this like anime version, and it just immediately fucking crashes.
But if in best case scenario, if they keep going the anime, if they listen to us, Hobby, if they listen to these two experts,
they should. These two experts of a guy who eats for 10 minutes.
If they listen to these two kings of cinema, and if they do make other animated Lord of the Rings spin-offs, and they're all better than this, and if this is the worst one of the batch,
that's a good point.
You're looking at a successful bundle of art.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Very good, friendo. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to our deep, insightful conversation into the world of Tolkien lore.
What kind of deep?
Helm's Deep. It's so deep. So deep, it's Helm's Deep, everybody.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to share our beautiful podcast with all your friends. That's our Christmas present.
Exactly.
And we promise that we will not backstab you as soon as you give us a hug.
Nope. All integrity here.
All integrity. Yeah. Until next time, he has been Thano.
He has been Javier.
And this has been the Cine-Scoots Movie Show.
Bye.